Obligations and contracts under the Civil Code of the Philippines, Articles 1156 to 1168. Article 1156. An obligation is a juridical necessity to give, to do, or not to do. Article 1157. Obligations arise from laws, contracts, quasi-contracts, acts or omissions punishable by law, and quasi-delicts. Article 1158. Obligations derived from law are not presumed. Only those expressly determined in this code or in special laws are demandable, and shall be regulated by the precepts of the law, which establishes them, and as to what has not been foreseen by the provisions of this book. Article 1159. Obligations arising from contracts have the force of law between the contracting parties, and should be complied with in good faith. Article 1160. Obligations derived from quasi-contracts shall be subject to the provisions on Chapter 1, Title 17 of this book. Article 1161. Civil obligations arising from criminal offenses shall be governed by the penal laws, subject to the provisions of Article 2177, and the pertinent provisions of Chapter 2, Preliminary Title, on Human Relations, and of Title 18 of this book, regulating damages. Article 1162. Obligations derived from quasi-delicts shall be governed by the provisions of Chapter 2, Title 17 of this book, and by special laws. Article 1163. Every person obliged to give something is also obliged to take care of it with the proper diligence of a good father of a family, unless the law or stipulation of the parties requires another standard of care. Article 1164. The creditor has a right to the fruits of the thing from the time to deliver it arises. However, he shall acquire no real right over it until the same has been delivered to him. Article 1165. When what is to be delivered is a determinate thing, the creditor, in addition to the right granted him by Article 1170, may compel the debtor to make the delivery. If the thing is indeterminate generic, he may ask that the obligation be complied with the expense of the debtor. If the obliged delays or has promised to deliver the same thing to two or more persons who do not have the same interest, he shall be responsible for fortuitous event until he has effected the delivery. Article 1166. The obligation to give a determinate thing includes that of delivering all its accessions and accessories, even though they may not have been mentioned. Article 1167. If a person obliged to do something fails to do it, the same shall be executed at his cost. This same rule shall be observed if he does it in contravention of the tenor of the obligation. Furthermore, it may be decreed that what has been done poorly be undone. Article 1168. When the obligation consists in not doing, and the obligors what has been forbidden him, it shall also be undone at his expense.